there's all kinds of scenes that I respond to in movies. I respond to music sequences. I respond to big comedy sequences. It was like they galvanized the entire theater. Everybody woke up. Everybody got connected, and and I would go see a film that had a sequence like that. I would see it 2 or 3 times at the theaters just to see that sequence, and then just to have that experience with an audience.
Hello and welcome to Making Tarantino, the podcast. I'm your host, Philip Duke. On this podcast, we go through a list of movies that Quentin Tarantino likes or recommends to see what they're all about, and if maybe they've influenced his work. There will be spoilers. Today, I'm joined once again by Kaylee Landsberg from Once Over with Kaylee on YouTube, as well as the podcast, Who Are These Podcasts, as Lucy Tightbox, which I love that name.
Yes.
If I had a porno name, it's Dean Gardenia. Like it's the street you're in, like your middle name, like Dean. I'm like, oh, that's cool.
I love it. I love it.
But hello, Kaylee.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me back. I'm so excited to be here. It is a pleasure to talk movies with you because you love movies, and that always makes it so much more fun.
And it's also the fun thing of like I think Maltese Falcon is above this, and then you watch that and you're like, oh no, like wait, what was I thinking? Yeah, you're like, oh, it's so much better. But like the lines in it, like the thing of like on the phone, not to jump ahead, but on the phone where like, hang on, let me give you my dad. Oh, hang on, let me give you my mom. Hang on, here's my brother. So yeah, all of that and all the stuff.
Yeah. This movie the dialogue in this movie is razor sharp. It is just primo.
Something that I read in the book was Bogart thinks that it was Faulkner that was writing like lighter, like he was like, I want tougher dialogue, because he's like, I think Lee Brackett was writing weak stuff. And he goes to Faulkner and he's like, hey, I need this punched up. And Faulkner's like, oh no, I wrote that. So he goes to Lee Brackett. She toughens it up. And so he just called her Butch and would go to her every time. Like, can you make this better? So
that's so funny. So he was kind of thinking that like the dialogue was too feminine.
He was thinking,
he
probably
wanted to be a guy, private eye.
Yeah.
Super savvy.
Exactly.
All the things.
And she was saying that when she went in and Howard Hawks met her, he thought Lee Brackett like a guy. And so then when he met her, he's like, oh, wait, you're a woman, And this is before she did like a bunch of Wilder stuff, right? So like this was like one of her first things. Like she had wrote a book and then he got her on. And then Faulkner ended up after this movie, he was like, I'm done. If I write any more scripts, my cachet is going to go down. Like, no, I need to leave. I miss Mississippi. I'm going to go back home. So
he did the mic drop. He said, I told my good joke. I got to get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, this is so good. They even do the thing that I love on Maltese Falcon is when he pulls that guy's jacket down. I think it's Elisha Cook that's in this movie, but he pulls his jacket down and he's like, how dare you, and they do that to him though. In this one, they pull his jacket down just for a second, but
it's so good.
Rate, review, and subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And if you want more talk like this, go to Phil on Cinema on Patreon and sign up there for the Patreon-only podcast of Shaping Scorsese. I do Scorsese films and things that are connected with them. So like you and I were talking off mic about After Hours, and then there's a movie called The Woman in the Window with Edward G. Robinson. It's really good. And Fritz Lang, I think. And I learned that recently. Fritz Lang, not Lang, it's Long.
I was literally just about to ask that. I was like, wait, am I stupid? I was like, is there another one? Oh God, I have always said Lang.
I got this audiobook recently about, it's like a shorter book. It was an audiobook and the guy was reading and he's like Fritz Lang and I'm like, oh shit, okay. And something interesting with Fritz Lang is his first wife who helped him write Metropolis. Then he ended up cheating on her. She ended up killing herself and he felt guilty. And they say that's why there's a lot of guilt in Fritz Lang movies, like he'll And it's like, oh my
Oh,
God. Like I was watching Rancho Notorious this morning, and that's like a Fritz Lang movie with
yeah.
Marlene Dietrich. And that has like the guilt of him being in love with Marlene Dietrich, but wanting to get revenge for his wife's murder. But anyway, I did that. I did Azora the Gay Blade. We're doing physical media collecting right now. And it's great because I can do Phil on Cinema. I can do whatever I want. So
Yeah.
and you have a Patreon. So yeah, for only $5 a month, 2 episodes a month, and then I scan press kits and stuff. So it's very cool. I always feel like a whore, um, trying to,
Listen, we all are.
Mhm.
Everybody is. And being able to have stuff on Patreon, I think is like one of the most important things for people like us. We love talking about movies and it's absolutely incredible, but having that support through, avenues like Patreon is really, really amazing. And it's awesome that you're
For
doing
sure.
that.
And
And you should
here,
be proud
here,
of it, not feeling like a
I
whore.
I am very proud of it. I just feel like when
You're a
I'm
good
like, hey,
whore.
everybody, like, yeah, yeah, it's like I said on the last episode, Ice T said that Madonna was the best pimp ever. Like she knew how to sell herself, like
Yep.
everything, like she was best. But speaking of those segues that are laying around, you have a Patreon.
I do. Yes, that is true. You can find my Patreon at Once Over with Kaylee. I release early episodes of movie reviews over there. I do popsicle reviews, which of course I am a true lady, so I eat my popsicles with a fork and a knife. Nothing saucy over there
Yeah,
ever.
yeah, yeah.
And then some other fun stuff. So it's a good time over there. I would recommend it. I would there. That's the best that I can do at whoring myself out is
There you
I
go.
would
Yes, I
recommend
would.
it.
That yeah, I have fun. If you don't want to show up, that's fine. But yes, I think it's enjoyable. So yes. Now on with the show. I guess we'll jump right in. The tagline: "The picture they were born for." The Big Sleep,
Yeah.
1946. The plot: private investigator Philip Marlowe is hired by wealthy General Sternwood regarding a matter involving his youngest daughter Carmen. Before the complex case is over, Marlowe sees murder, blackmail, deception, and what might be love. So let me stop right there for a second. Do you know Dame Taft on Twitter?
I do. I
So,
know Dame Taft in real life too.
well, that's cool. See, here's the thing. I'm always trying to decipher, is that a girl? Is it a boy? I don't know. I kind of want to be left in a mystery. But anyway,
In
I
that case,
sh-
I won't say
I should.
anymore.
Oh, dang. Okay. Well, we'll talk off mic. But um, on Twitter, it was I had shared like it was a clip of the Big Sleep, and I said, "Oh, I'm doing
Yeah.
once over with Kaylee. Go and check it out." And Dame Taft wrote like, "I like." And this would have you seen the Robert Mitchum one of the Big Sleep? I like that one because they can be more saucy, more X-rated, more heroin. But Bogart is so good, and Bacall.
Bogart and Bacall are the true key to this film. The chemistry that they have is outstanding. Now, I have seen, I think it came out in 78, the remake with Robert Mitchum.
Yeah,
I love Robert Mitchum. I love
yeah,
Robert Mitchum so much. He is the background of my computer screen. That is
cool.
how much I love him.
Do
I
you
I
have him? You have him topless from Cape Fear, or do
I
you have
wish,
him
I
in
wish.
his
No, I
tidy
have
whities?
Night of the
Oh,
Hunter.
oh,
Night of the
okay.
Hunter.
Nice.
And I just think that he's truly, truly an incredible actor. He's one of my favorite actors. I
Mhm,
was not a huge fan of the remake of this movie.
mhm.
Um, that being said, it's not bad. It's just that the original with Bogart and
Yeah,
Bacall is the epitome of cinema. I
yeah,
mean, the way like Bogart has this like cool, cynical charm. He is like the embodiment of the archetype of a hard-boiled detective who is really savvy and really smart and he can figure everything out. And then McCall is like snappy and mysterious and
yeah,
oh my god, I can't say she's insolent at sometimes. I cannot say enough good things about how good the two of them are together.
yeah. It's
I actually was thinking about this because
mhm,
I as we were talking about The Big Sleep,
mhm,
I remembered that there was the remake. I had forgotten for a little while
mhm.
um and then I realized that the movie that you and I previously talked about, Straw Dogs, also
Mhm.
has a remake that came out more
Yes,
recently.
yeah.
So I had a question for you that maybe you have some
It
insight
might
to.
be my same question, but go ahead.
I don't know.
Oh,
What would you say is the percentage of movies on your Tarantino list that have been remade?
oh wow. Not many, I think. Wow, that's really good question. I thought your question was going to be who would a Bogart be today? Like I was thinking
Oh,
before the
that's
aphasia,
my favorite
maybe Bruce
question.
Willis, kind of in his prime, like he has that kind of gruff coolness. Like,
Interesting.
and then that makes you think, what would Die Hard be if Humphrey Bogart made Die Hard? Like how cool would that be?
That would have
Um,
been really cool.
the yeah, I think Straw Dogs, I think goodness, I this one. There are some others, but there are also some that are maybe remade but changed a little bit. So then they're
Yeah.
not a full remake. But that's the thing where, and then on the list is Tarantino likes, I don't think I'm going to do it. I'm going to do the original Psycho. Tarantino likes the Gus Van Sant Psycho better than the regular
Really?
Psycho. But I think that's part of him being like, look at me, I'm on the edge. It's like I say, my thing is like, you'll never hear Tarantino be like, what I like about Kurosawa is no. His thing is like, what I like about Turkey Shoot is, so, but,
That's a very good point.
but yeah, that
I
is,
I would be curious. It's an interesting question to kind of examine what he likes about an original versus a remake. So I
yeah.
think that's really exciting. I
Well,
would implore you to do the Gus Van Sant Psycho just
and
because of that.
recently, you see Anne Heche's butthole in that movie. She like
Well worth
falls
it in
over
that
it. Yeah,
case.
yeah, there you go. Um,
Yeah.
the he just did on the Patreon on Video Archives, they did like all the spoilers movies. So like the old, like the 20s, the 30s, the 50s, and then also they did all the Last of the Mohicans. They did a couple of those. They didn't touch
Oh,
on the Michael Mann one.
interesting.
He said, I haven't seen the Michael Mann one yet, but he's seen the
Yeah.
others. He even bought like a first printing or whatever of the book of
Of
like
course he
Last of the
did.
Mohican. And so he's like, I read like a chapter at a time with my gloves, and then I put it away, and then I read another chapter. Um, so I'm like, well, that's cool. But also, it's on Kindle. But the but it is really cool. I met somebody once. They had like a Bible from the 1400s, and I was just thinking, like, can't you just give this to like add artwork and everything on it? It was huge. I was like, oh, they also had a mummified baby. Oh, it's very cool. I don't know why they had a mummified baby. It was like they were
I
like
am
that's
interested in
it
that
was
person.
they had so this guy died and I was doing security and they said the the son of him wanted to come and take all the stuff for himself, but the wife was like, no, this is for us. And she was friends with when Steven Spielberg's dad was still alive. She was friends with him and they would hang out. And so she brings me in one day and shows me, and he had this whole wall covered in glass with like the mummified baby and all this other stuff. And then on a pedestal was this Bible. And I was like, oh my gosh. So really cool.
That's
But
so
yeah, and
cool.
then artwork and things like that. Um, but yeah, yeah, that's what's it's crazy though. Usually you can't remake it. Maybe if it's older, you're remaking, like say the spoilers or Last of the Mohicans, you remake those and they get better. But the big ones that I always think about, like you can't redo Casablanca, and this is almost like a Casablanca. You can't redo this. You're not going to get the characters, just like
Absolutely.
you and I said on our Straw Dogs episode. Like those are two good actors in that remake, but they don't have what it has. They never, like we learned about on there, like Dustin Hoffman and her went off for 2 weeks to live together and get annoyed with each other to be like, oh, we're like a bickering married couple now. Like, and we can read each other and we can fuck with each other. Speaking of Dustin Hoffman,
Absolutely.
have you seen the little clip on the shorts when they were for Rain Man and they're sitting on a couch, him and Tom Cruise? Dustin Hoffman raises
No.
up to like cut one and it's loud. He doesn't think it's going to be loud. I think he raises up and all of a sudden you hear this fart noise. Tom Cruise looks at him. They both start busted up. He's like, oh,
Oh my God.
yeah,
Oh my God,
yeah,
I gotta see that.
yeah, hilarious.
I do think whenever I think about remakes, the quote that I always think of is actually from Frank Oz. He was talking about when he remade Dirty Rotten Scoundrels as a remake, which a lot of people don't know. It originally
French,
was a
wasn't
movie
it?
called Bedtime Stories.
Yeah.
And so when Frank Oz went to remake that, Bedtime Stories was a total flop. It did horrible and
Mhm.
it got horrible reviews. It did horrible in the box office. Absolute garbage. David Nivens is in that, and
Yeah.
Brando is in
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And
Yeah.
Brando being an idiot, Brando.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, he's being the Steve Martin. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just completely
Got no
insane.
cork on the fork. That's what I want
Yes,
to see.
yeah.
Brando with the cork on the fork.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's worth
Horrible.
watching. I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, the movie was a flop,
Yeah.
and somebody asked Frank Oz, "Why would you remake a movie that is horrible?" And Oz's response was, "Why would I remake a movie that's good? I
Yeah.
don't need to remake a movie that's good. It's already done its job." So I kind of feel like that about the original 1946, The Big Sleep. We had the absolutely amazing performances of Bogart and Bacall. We had Martha Vickers, I think, outshines Bacall in this, which
Yeah.
is, again, a crazy thing to say. Everybody is so incredibly perfect that you forget about that the plot is nonsensical and convoluted.
Well,
This is such a stunningly perfect movie that you can't remember any of that.
but it was this time where I more clued in. I was more like, this makes sense to me, right? But
Yeah.
also the thing with Martha Vickers and the thing with You're a Woman, but Dorothy Malone, I think all guys, when they see Dorothy Malone, they're like, oh my God, look at this. Like and what ended up happening was Howard Hawks ended up dating her for a while and like
I
got her
didn't
on
know that.
contract with Warner Brothers, dated her for a while until either she got tired of him telling her what to do or him not putting up with her shit of like being an independent woman of some sort. And then what's interesting, if you've seen Winter Kills, she plays
Uh-huh.
John Huston's secretary in Winter Kills. Like,
Okay.
yeah. And I remember going, oh, wow,
Do
that's
you
cool.
know do you know the rumor about Dorothy Malone? Dorothy Malone is the Acme bookstore clerk
Yeah.
in this movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know the rumor?
No.
There's a rumor
Mm-hmm.
that allegedly she is also the librarian. So there's the librarian scene.
Oh,
Humphrey Bogart's character goes into the library and he
all right.
asks for a first edition of something, and the librarian says something like, "You don't look like a man who'd collect first editions,"
Yeah.
which is a great insult. Like, I love that as an insult.
Yeah.
Um, but allegedly, the thought was that Dorothy Malone also played that librarian. She just did her
Had it
hair
up.
up and wore glasses
Yeah.
because the actress who played that librarian has no other credits, something like that. There's some crazy
Well,
story about why
well,
this is the theory.
and that could be that we haven't gone into, but they filmed this movie the one time and then they were like, wait a minute, um To Have or Have Not is doing gangbusters with them together. We need to put more scenes of them together. So then they go and
Yep.
reshoot some, which they said by then, like Howard Hawks and them didn't have a very, like they were just there for business. Okay, let's do it.
Yep.
And by then Bogart and Bacall were married, but during making this movie he was still with his wife, and then he left her because she's like an alcoholic, and then that would cause him to drink more. And then um and then he went back to her, and Bacall's kind of like, okay, I guess, all right. And I think Howard Hawks, I don't know if he's trying to get with Bacall because I only read that chapter of the book, but he's like thought he was like she was his ingenue and he was going to help her kind of. And then she gets with Bogart and like goes off, and does her own thing. Um, but it was the thing. And then after like the end of that year, then they get together and then they get married on like May 12th or something of 46. Yeah.
They got married
Or
very
45.
shortly after
Yeah.
filming wrapped on this. I know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So, but it was funny because then they waited a year to put this out before they added all that stuff to it.
Yeah.
And what they said that they didn't add that was on the GI version that they released in the, to the soldiers over fighting the war. But this version was the one that I watched today. I bought it on Apple way back in the day for $5 or for 15 or $20. It was Maltese Falcon. It was that. And I forget, well, maybe just those two for $10. But anyway, mine had the version of him explaining everything to the DA,
Oh,
like where he's like, oh, so he followed him to the pier, thumped him over the head, took the thing, took the pictures and killed him and like explains everything. And in the other versions, they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And that's why it kind of maybe made more sense to me. And that's why when I started watching this, I was like, oh, is it going to have both versions? But it only had the one, like 154 minutes. Is that right? Um,
That
but
sounds right.
but that's what I was going to say. Why I brought up. Thank you for remembering me, reminding me. Was maybe it was a reshoot with her. Like, let's just do a
Yeah.
reshoot of the book thing, because they also had the girl that played. Well, let me read the people. Humphrey Bogart as Philip Marlowe, Lauren Bacall as Vivian Rutledge. Which I want to say, you were bringing up quotes. If you're like, I don't want to watch this movie, it's an old movie. Lauren Bacall says there's no such thing as an old movie. It's just a movie you haven't seen yet. So,
Can I pause one more
yes,
second at
of
Lauren
course.
Bacall?
No problem.
Okay, so I people criticize me a lot because I have a very deep voice for a woman. So like
Mhm.
I get a lot of comments about how deep my voice is.
Yeah.
When I was younger and people still remembered who Lauren Bacall was.
Mhm.
So when I was a kid, I had a voice like this. I came out of the womb with this
Yeah.
voice. And when I was very young, when I was 5, 6, 7, people started like adults
Yeah.
would be like, "You sound like Lauren Bacall. You sound like Lauren Bacall." And so a big, huge chunk of my childhood, and then into like my teenage years and young adult years, people would call me Lauren because
Yeah.
they thought that I sounded so much like
Oh
Lauren Bacall.
wow.
And and I was always like, that's the best compliment that anybody could ever give you.
Yeah.
I mean, this like that's like
Yeah. It's
so nice. I was
yeah.
like,
It's
"Thank you. Can you say I look like her now?" Like,
yeah.
I would like that
Yeah.
also,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
It's not like hey Froggy, and you're like, oh, because you sound like that guy from Little Rascals. Oh, you
Yeah.
motherfuckers. Um, but yeah, well, it's her, and also who's the girl romancing the stone? Kate. No, what's her name? Body
Now
Heat.
it's on the tip of my tongue.
She has a deep voice.
Yes. Yeah.
But yeah, usually I run. My friend goes, "Your show should just be called, the guy from that thing," because that's what I do. But I'm always hoping the co-host will be like, "Oh," and usually they're like, "I have no idea."
Yeah.
But anyway, John Ridgely as Eddie Mars, Martha Vickers as Carmen Sherwood, Dorothy Malone as Acme Bookshop proprietress, Peggy Knudsen as Mona Mars. So that's the one where it was another girl in one version, and then a year later when they refilmed it, they put the other girl in there. And Regis Toomey as Chief Inspector Bernie Oles, which I like him. He's cool. Written by William Faulkner and Lee Brackett and Jules Firthman, which he used also on, I think, uh, to I just said it. What am I? The movie before this that they did. He helped him write
Oh,
that. To have and have not.
yes, that's the one.
And it's
I
from a
was like,
no.
"Oh my God."
I know. It's from a novel by Raymond Chandler, and I think I have a Raymond Chandler book around here that I was going to bring, and I forgot. But in there, Yojimbo is from a Raymond Chandler book that's called
Yep.
like the Red. You know how in Yojimbo he looks off like and he's like, and they're like, what's your name? And he's like, Yellow Weeds. And they're like, oh, cool, Yellow Weeds, that's a cool name. And he's like, I just fucking made it up. I just looked out. Are you saying chair and lamp? Are you saying things you see, Brett? um so so it's in that book, it's him doing mobs against each other and him playing the middle, this detective. Directed by Howard Hawks. So in the novel, you might have this: Geiger is selling pornography, then illegal and often associated with organized crime, and is a homosexual having a relationship with Lundgren. Now, is Lundgren, there's so many names in this. It's almost like Dune, like watching Dune. But Lundgren, that's not his buddy with the leather jacket, right? Lundgren, and that's not his chauffeur, because that's
No,
Galen.
Lundgren was the second driver chauffeur.
The
So
guy that
the
shows up, that he goes, that's it. She goes, that's his right hand man. He gets out of the
Yeah, there was
car
Owen
and he goes
Taylor,
in the
and then
club.
there was Lundgren.
Right.
That's one of the biggest challenges of this movie. On
Mhm.
the other hand, I don't know that there are any characters that I would necessarily cut. Like I like all of the weird characters, and everybody does feel very unique. You made me think of something though. because you were talking about the idea that the Raymond Chandler book has a pornography shop instead of a bookshop. Um, this movie is a post-code movie, so the pre-code movies all came out from like the 20s to I think it was
Yeah,
34,
33 or
and that
34.
was
Yeah.
when it was much more permissible to get racy, to have
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
illicit
Howard
sex, a
Howard
lot of
Hawks
violence.
did Scarface with the sister, all that stuff. Yeah.
I
Al Pacino.
almost would have preferred, we talked about who would we have now play these
Mhm.
characters. Who would Marlowe be played by now? Who would Vivian be played by now? I almost wonder what this would have been like if it had been a pre-code film
Oh,
and we had
wow.
gotten kind of the sexy stuff instead of doing like in this version that we have in the 1946 The Big Sleep, we have it is beautifully nuanced. There are so many double entendres.
Yeah.
The conversation about horse racing might be
Yeah.
one of the best moments in all of cinema history.
Yeah.
It's truly, truly incredible. But it would have been fun to get a little saucier, you
Yeah.
know?
That's why I said I like the remake because they can go there. But
Yeah.
I never thought of like, yeah, pre-code like Barbara Stanwyck and somebody else, like,
Yeah.
or even what's her name? When Bogart did Petrified Forest, that was Betty Davis, right? Like something like that. Like have
Yeah.
Betty, and
Yeah.
Petrified
Yeah.
Forest was, I think, right on the cusp of,
I
but
think it was too. I think it was,
and
yes.
something else that I read, Bogart did 35 films in like either that year or 2 years. Like that's insane. Like, but he
Insane.
skyrocketed and they were just like, okay. Um, but the names too, though, where you're like, this is a lot, but also you start getting it. You're like, oh wait, is Taylor the other butler that's real nice to him? No, that's not Sherwood's butler. His name was, Norris. And
Okay,
okay,
this
and then
one's
you
Canino.
start,
This
yeah,
one's
yeah, and then
Reagan. This one's
you're like,
Mars.
Canino's the leather jacket guy. Okay, Mars is, this guy. And that's the other thing where I'm like, Mars is lying to him about being the landlord, but then he is a landlord, and you're like, okay. But then also that thing of Carmen just being like, we'll go through the rest of this, but with Carmen being like, um, yeah, 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 Joe killed him, and he's
Yeah.
like, okay, but she's just kind of looking off, like, yeah, yeah, sure, and you're like, what the hell? Um, but Carmen is described as being nude in Geiger's house, and later nude and in Marlowe's bed. The sexual orient. Oh, I love when she's in his room when he shows up at his house and he's like, "What the fuck? Like you need to," and she goes, "Look, I learned I'm not sucking on my thumb anymore," and then bites his hand and he's like, "Just get out."
Every woman in this
Mhm.
movie is so sexually attracted to
Yeah.
Marlowe that one of his character traits
Yeah.
is that every woman is into him. Even the female taxi driver
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
hitting on him.
Here's my
He
card.
can't,
Call me
he's
if you need a tail.
irresistible.
Yeah. And then she's
Also,
like, "But I work during the day." Yeah.
call me at night because I work
Yeah.
during the day. I also loved seeing the female taxi driver. So I actually, sometimes when I'm watching movies like this, I have like a blindness for
Mhm.
certain movies where I forget that they weren't made recently.
Oh,
And
right.
like
Yeah.
I don't remember black and white. I don't remember when movies are in a foreign language and I watch them with subtitles. Like I have no memory for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
brain doesn't work that way. And so as I was watching this movie, as I was rewatching it today, um, I was like, oh my God, a female taxi driver. What a forward thinking thing. And then I was like, wait, it's 1946. That's literally because we're basically in wartime.
Yeah.
So all of the traditionally male jobs
Yeah.
were in
They're
fact
like,
held by female.
we need people to drive around. Yeah, exact. Yeah, but it's so cool where, Howard Hawks did that before. I haven't finished reading my book, but one of my favorite fast rat-a-tat-tat things is His Girl Friday. And,
Yeah. Oh, I
um,
love it.
and in His Girl Friday, it was normally the front page. There was a remake. The front page originally, two guys. And then Howard Hawks goes, "Hey, let's do this, redo it, make it a woman." And then it brings up all kinds of, other stuff. And it's just great rat-a-tat-tat back and forth. And I love the guy. He's actually from like Laurel and Hardy movies. The guy that comes in and he goes, "Hey, I just gave you, here's the paper." "No, you were never here." "No, I gave it to you." "No, you were never here." "No, I just," What if we gave you money for my wife too? Yeah, your wife too. Oh, so
Yeah.
good. But where am I at? Geiger's house, Marlowe's bed. The sexual orientation of Geiger and Lundgren gets unmentioned in the film because explicit references to homosexuality were prohibited. So crazy. It's crazy how that took a long time to change. And like I was talking about it, I think on a recent show, like you're watching Cops, like an old episode of Cops, of course, because they don't, but they're like, oh, you had marijuana in your car. Like you were taking you downtown and you're like, it's marijuana. Like, and
Yeah.
recently my wife's watching Thousand Pound Sisters, and in Kentucky, you can't have marijuana. And she's caught with marijuana and mushrooms in her purse. And they're
Oh
like,
no.
okay, you might go away for a while. And she's got the kids in the car with her. Okay, fully dressed. Carmen had to be fully dressed, and the pornographic elements could only be alluded to with cryptic references to photographs of Carmen wearing a Chinese dress and sitting in a Chinese chair. I was going to look that up. I guess the Chinese chair is the chair that he sits in even to talk to.
Yeah.
That
I
chair that he
yeah, I
finds her in,
that,
I think. It's kind of ornate. That's the other thing. They don't now you get IKEA furniture. It's square, it's whatever. You got like they got these cool desks, they got like all this ornate stuff, like that chair that he's sitting, like everything, like the lamp, like so cool.
this is
Um
a movie that it prioritizes mood and
mhm,
characters and dialogue
mhm.
over a tidy plot.
Yeah,
I'm not necessarily saying that the plot is totally incomprehensible, but it does at points, especially towards the end, it does get a little bit hard to follow. It doesn't matter because again,
yeah,
those settings are
yeah,
so gorgeous that you don't care at all. I don't care what's happening. I don't
yeah.
care. I
That's
don't care.
where that's where
Um,
he Hawk said, like, just don't follow the book, like kind of follow the book, don't follow the book. And then they just went with it. And they said the bad thing was that then he tried to keep doing that and it didn't work out as well, later.
yeah,
And
yeah.
but yeah, what were you gonna say? I'm sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say another thing. You just reminded me. So the story that you just told was Carmen couldn't be naked, so they had to make allusions to her in
Yeah.
a Chinese dress. Another part of the film that is just one of my favorite quotes from this movie, and I just love it so dang much, is at one point Carmen busts in a door and she gets tripped by somebody because she's holding a
Oh
gun. I
yeah.
can't even remember which one of the bad guys is tripping
Yeah,
her.
yeah, yeah.
It's probably
My,
it's
I
relatively
it might
early
be
on in
either
the movie, so
Joe or it might be the woman, the secretary of the
I think it's Joe
Agnes.
Brody.
Agnes. Oh,
Joe
it might be.
Brody.
Yeah, yeah.
So he like puts his foot out and trips her, and she's on the floor, kind of like on her hands and knees. And Marlowe Bogart looks down at her and goes, "Get up, darling. You look like a Pekingese." And I was like, "That's hilarious."
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
he's insulting her
yeah,
when she just tried to kill a guy and then she got tripped. And like that's like the most noir of all noir lines to me.
yeah.
Like I just love it. I love it.
One of
It's so
one of my
silly.
one of my favorite lines was when he's talking to, General Sternwood, and he goes,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, Carmen." He goes, "Oh yeah, I met Carmen. She tried to sit on my lap while I was standing." And you're like, "Oh,
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
genius writing." Like,
It's
oh, so good.
Yes.
But okay, where was I? A scene of her in Marlowe's bed replaced with a scene of her appears to be sitting fully dressed in Marlowe's apartment for him to promptly kick her out. This scene was initially omitted from the 45 cut, but restored for the 46 version. Midway through filming, Hawks and the cast realized that they did not know whether the chauffeur or Owen Taylor, this part's funny because I read it in the book, it was Humphrey Bogart goes to him and goes, "So who killed Owen Taylor?" And they're like, "We don't know, we don't." And then at one point they go, "Who killed Owen Taylor?" And I think it was Dorothy Malone was like, "Probably Hawks, like Howard Hawks killed him," like, um,
Oh, that's so
but
funny.
then they sent a cable to Chandler to say, "Okay, who killed him?" And Chandler was like, "I don't even know." Like, and then Jack Warner sends him a thing of like, "Okay, this is ridiculous. You guys just sent like a 75 cent, message to the, like, why are we focusing on this? It's like, it reminds me of the thing that Mark Hamill story that he tells. Like, he goes, we're in the trash compactor, and I'm
Yeah.
like, well, wait a minute, we're just in there. Shouldn't my head be all with mush and all this stuff? And Harrison Ford goes, if it ain't that kind of movie, kid. Like, if you think this is what we're in for, no, it's not that kind of movie. He's like, oh, okay.
I did always have a problem with this movie, just talking about everybody dying, which almost every single male character dies in this movie.
Yeah.
Um, when I was a kid and people used to talk about the big sleep, I
Mhm.
didn't understand what the title meant, what the big
Right.
sleep meant.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course, it's a reference to your final sleep,
Yeah.
aka
Yeah.
death.
Yeah.
And when I watched this for the first time as an adult, I saw it in the movie theater, and I was watching it and I still didn't understand why it was called The Big Sleep. Like, I was like,
Mhm.
I don't get it. And now rewatching it many times since then, I'm like, oh, it's just because everybody dies. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody dies in this little
Well,
noir.
and that's that other, he uses those words. What is it? Red, how many red, whatever do you have? Like,
Yeah,
signifying
yeah.
bodies, how many dead bodies?
Yep. Yep.
And the cool thing is, like, he's like a cop. Like, you don't have to explain that. Like, he's just a detective. All of a sudden the cop shows up and goes, hey, we got a call about this guy going off the pier. Let's go check it out. He's like, okay. And then he's like, what do you got? He's like, well, I got this, and I'll give you more tomorrow. And he's like, okay. And the fact that he's one step ahead a little bit. Like, he won't give up. He knows that Vivian wants him to tell what your dad hired me
Yep.
for. He knows that Carmen wants him to know. He knows that the cops want to know, like, all these people, and that Joe Brody wants to know, and he won't tell anybody. He's just like, here's what I know, gives them a little bit, and it's so good. And yeah, it's just, you want to hear listener opinions?
Yeah.
All right.
Man, I don't even have an opinion.
Well, you gotta have an opinion.
The Cinemigos on Twitter wrote, quote, any Bogart film is a must-watch for me, especially when paired with Bacall. Bogart again is playing one of the famed noir detectives, this time playing Philip Marlowe. I am looking forward to the great discussion. And Fred Schaefer on Twitter wrote, quote, this might be the best Chandler adaptation. Bogart was never better. Same for Bacall. The convoluted plot just adds to the pleasure of watching, and the scene of the bookstore with Dorothy Malone is perfection. Nostalgia Cast on Nostalgia Cast / Back to the Bluey on Twitter wrote, quote, my vote for the most entertaining movie ever made, tackles violence and sex without ever rubbing your nose in it. Today don't have the creativity or know-how to do otherwise. And the pacing is so breathless that it doesn't matter how one murder isn't even accounted for. Scott on Twitter wrote, quote, it's one of the best noirs ever made, really dark and strangely prescient with the sexual blackmail subplot, end quote. Grindhouse Seller on Instagram wrote, quote, my favorite movie and book. Frank Mendoza, 1974, on Instagram wrote, quote, these two are the stuff of Hollywood legend, one of the better of the 4 films they made together, end quote. And Philip Meller on the Making Tarantino the podcast Facebook page wrote, quote, Bogart was great. That world weary look, considering the age of these flicks, he never feels old school, end quote.
Yeah.
That's very true. And that reminded me of, for women, like, sometimes if I'm watching these old movies and my wife's like, oh, and I'll be like, what do you think? And I ask her, like, Brad Pitt. She's like, Brad Pitt, like, I don't much care for Brad Pitt. Like, he looks weird. I'm like, okay. But she loves Charlize Theron. She'll leave me for her in a heartbeat.
Yeah. I probably would too.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
respect her
yeah,
very much right now.
yeah. And but it's that thing, like Humphrey Bogart. Like, my thing with Bogart is, if you're acting across from him, just to pick on him a little bit, he spits a lot. And like, you even see it
Yeah.
when he's kissing her, her lips full of saliva, but so is his. And you're like, oh my gosh. But it's that thing of, I wonder how many people are like, I just got spit on by, he keeps spitting on me when he's
The
acting.
stereotype of
But
that. Yeah.
yeah, but
That's funny.
do you find him attractive? I mean, his
He has never been my type.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
yeah.
I think the only like of the classic Hollywood actors, probably the only one that I was ever really into was Cary Grant.
I was gonna
I
say
went through a
Cary
big Cary
Grant,
Grant
maybe
phase.
Clark Gable, like
Never Clark Gable
oh,
for me. But I have a very weird taste in guys. So I was also never a Brad Pitt gal.
yeah,
But Crispin Glover, give me
yeah.
Crispin Glover. I would move to
Oh,
Czech Republic to live outside of his castle where he has wild peacocks in the hopes that
oh,
maybe he would see me eventually
yeah.
because I'm in love with him. Um,
I would admit that in Charlie's Angels, he is sexy as fuck. Like he's
he's so
badass, like
sexy.
cool, like
He's sexy
uh
as fuck when he's
yeah,
dancing in Friday the 13th Part 4. I love
yeah,
him. I'm in
yeah.
love with him. But in addition to that, River Phoenix was a big, more classic
Oh,
Hollywood person
yeah.
that I was into. That he was somebody that I had. Actually, fun fact that is only a fun fact to me. The Big Sleep came out in 1946 on River Phoenix's birthday, August 23rd.
Oh wow.
Obviously, River Phoenix wouldn't be born for
Right,
several
right.
more years,
Yeah.
but still, August 23rd. And I got married, my second marriage, on River Phoenix's birthday so that I would never forget my anniversary. Yeah.
That's a good one.
I
It's like
kept forgetting my anniversary the
my
first time I
cousin
got
got
married.
married. My cousin got married 9, 10, 11, so he'd remember it. 9, 10, 11. The
Very convenient.
another fun fact about River Phoenix, he lost his virginity on the set of Stand By Me to his babysitter, like,
I
and it
do
was
know
like,
that. I
yeah,
was very
like, and he
jealous.
was 14. It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's did you want to hear? I guess we'll play a word from our sponsor,
Yes,
then
please.
we'll get into it.
Hey, cinephiles! At cinemaforce.net, you will find a channel devoted to all forms of cinema appreciation. There are epic essays on films, documentaries, and exclusive series like Better in Black and White. And if you want to go even deeper, you can join Cinema Force on Instagram and explore the more physical history of film through press kits and physical media. Go to cinemaforce.net and subscribe to the YouTube channel now.
So yeah, I don't know if you check out Cinema Force, but he has retrospectives. When he was on for Maniac Cop, he did a Maniac Cop retrospective on all three. And when he was on for Extreme Prejudice, he did one for that. And then he just did one for all the three body the Body Snatchers. So like
Oh, yeah,
the
yeah.
Abel Ferrara one, the original, the 78 one, 79, 78. So yeah, it's got, and then he has a whole thing on the airport movies and a whole thing on Iron Eagle, like how the guy left Iron Eagle after the first one and went to do a movie called Roofs, where he's like dancing on a roof or something. It's crazy.
Perfect. I
But
love that. Amazing.
but anyway, and then what was I was thinking of something that I saw in an old movie. I don't know. I keep grabbing. Okay. But yeah, now we're into discussing this movie. We can go wherever we want. I like movies that just start. I like the remake has like him driving the car and it's a camera on the hood and it has the
Yeah.
car driving and you're like, oh wow. This one just he shows up, he goes to talk to the guy, and it's cool. The guy must be an alcoholic because he's like, I enjoy what, and then you see him be like, and you're like, when he's done drinking, he's like, that was delicious, and you're like,
Oh, for
wow,
sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, all this stuff with him with the butler being like, hey, she wants to see you, so he goes to talk to Vivian, and then Vivian's giving him shit, and then when he comes out, he's like, she didn't want to see me. And the butler's like, oh, my mistake. Sorry. And it's like, yeah, like because she's trying to. Oh, and when he's like, what did he say about her breakfast? Like, you're eating, like, the best line for music is like, Master of Puppets, chop your breakfast on a mirror. Like, oh,
Yeah.
it's brilliant. And that's like her. She's drinking. He's like, whoever would have breakfast this early with drinking.
Yeah.
And she slams her
Drinking your
drink down.
breakfast.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna put up with that. So
Again, the banter between the two of them is just what makes this movie so incredibly wonderful. The place that really shines for me is that horse conversation.
yeah,
I
yeah.
could talk about that horse. I could do 3 hours just talking about the
Yeah.
horse conversation.
Yeah.
And that was actually one of the things that they came back to reshoot. So that wasn't originally going to be in the film. That was one of the things that they came back a year later to reshoot. And what I love about that so much is there's all these like double entendres.
Mhm.
There's all of these things. And at one point, Vivian says something like, they're talking about what will make a horse want to race. What
Yeah.
will give a motivation to a horse?
Yeah.
And Vivian said they're talking about sugar, and Vivian says sugar won't make me run.
That's
And I
right.
was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, she wants a guy to be mean to her." And like that is like the perfect like
Yeah.
so many girls there's the stereotype of girls really like to be with the bad guy and like the bad boy whatever.
Yeah.
And she's doing that and she's doing it in this super saucy sexy way.
Yeah.
And that horse conversation, not to get too ahead of things, but I think that
Go
horse
ahead.
conversation really leads nicely into the end of the film. I think that this movie would be worse for not having that because at the end of the movie,
Mhm.
there are very infamous lines where Vivian and Marlowe say back and forth to each other with a little bit of time in between, I guess I'm in love with you.
Yeah.
And which is it's very Star Wars. It's very I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love you too. I guess I'm
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
love with you.
Yeah.
But it's the same concept as what makes a horse run.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that is motivating me to do all of the things that have happened in this movie are that I guess I'm in love with you.
But
I
it
guess the whole
it
motivation of the whole film was love.
well, and the tag exactly, and the tag on that was, come from behind, like at the end, like it's like you want somebody, you want a horse or whatever to come from behind, and it's like, okay, like, and that's just the button on it. But also it's the stuff of that conversation says everything with talking about
Yeah.
different things, but you get it. And then the thing with the love that makes me think of this, because I was reading in the book about people that, so how long are they going to be together in to have or have not? Like, are they long? Like Speed, that was a relationship built on trauma or whatever, that they went through some shit together.
Yeah.
And after like a year, they're going to break up. And all those kind of things. So that's where you sometimes go, okay, in movie land, like where would this character, are they going to be together? But it is where they wrap it up where he's like, oh, your sister will get some help and we'll be okay. And I think I'm in love with you too. And you're like, okay. And scene in the end. But it's also the thing of like her giving him shit at the house and then her coming to his place and she goes, well, then I'm going to call the police. And it's that phone thing that I said. She calls
Yeah.
the police and then he grabs the phone. He's like, who is this? It's the police. No, we're not the police here. What do you mean? And they're like, no, you called me. No, hang on. Let me give you to my sister. And then
Oh,
she
you're
gives
the
him
police.
shit.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then like, I don't know what you're talking about. We never called you. And he hangs up. But it's that stuff. It's the best one of like how he transforms himself of like, pushing that hat up and putting those glasses on and being like, oh, really? And like giving her those looks. And then
Yeah.
at Geiger's place, Giger, whatever. It's not Alien, but it's Geiger. And so it's like giving her those looks. And then later when he's like, do you know me? And she's like, no. And he puts the glasses on.
And he puts the glasses on, does the
And
hat.
pushes the hat. And she's like, oh, you motherfucker.
I also really love the idea of having Geiger's bookshop directly across from the Acme bookshop. And I love how Marlowe's character tries to he's a PI and he
Yeah.
is a great detective. And so he goes over to Geiger's bookshop at first and he asks them about non-existent books. He says, "Oh, do you have a copy of this?"
Yeah,
And the very,
Ben-Hur
very
on page 165, the second double line, and
yeah, very, very, very proper. Agnes says, "Oh, we don't have a copy of that right now." And then he goes over to Acme, the generic bookstore, the stereotypical Looney Tunes Acme bookstore.
yeah,
We go over there, and Dorothy Malone,
and
who is the
and and
bookkeeper there,
and I'm thinking it's a regular bookstore, like it's just but then he's like, I was looking for Ben-Hur, blah blah blah, and she's like, that doesn't exist. And now he's like, oh, you know your shit. Like, and she's like, how do you know these? It's like, yeah, I went to the library. And that's what's cool. That little scene of him at the library being like, what's a rare book that I can go look for? Yeah. It's awesome.
It is. It's so genius and so small. Like that's such a small moment,
Mhm.
and yet it has so much impact.
Yeah.
So much impact. And most of the characters in this film, I would say, are morally ambiguous. They
Mhm.
aren't good or bad. There
Yeah.
is plenty of times where Vivian is sketchy as fuck. Carmen is certainly not
Yeah.
chaste.
Yeah.
And same thing also Marlowe. And then pretty much everybody else is a bad guy. So like
Yeah.
all of the characters have this kind of gray area sort of charm about them. So to get to see them all discovering things together is very exciting
Yeah.
because you're learning about them while they're learning about themselves. And that is again one of the, I think, most beautiful things about a film noir. And this noir gives us femme fatales left
Yeah.
and right. We have
Yeah.
the most beautiful women in the world in this movie.
Yeah.
I love it.
They're all gorgeous. And it's the thing of, like you said, with him putting it together. And like I said, usually I think with this movie, I'm like, I'm a little lost. But this time I was not lost. I was like, oh, I get it. And like I said, I think I saw the GI version or the re-release with it had the description of him at the DA telling
Yeah.
him when they're like, you can't pursue this anymore. And he's like, here's everything that I know. And then they're like, oh shit. And but then also at the end when he's like, well, we're not going to say like who killed, Otis Taylor, and we're not going to say, we're just put your just that's the other cool thing when he catches Carmen there, he grabs her, takes her home, and goes in and tells Vivian, like, I've never been here. She was here all night. If anybody asks. And then when
That's the perfect
the butler
example.
goes, I can call you a cab. And he's like, no, I can
I
walk.
was never here.
I was never here. And you're like, oh, of course, because you get a cab, they're going to go, well, how come the yellow cab showed up at 3:52 in the morning? So yeah,
It's those little things that are just so perfect. And again, that's why for me, the plot was still incomprehensible. By the end,
yeah,
I'm like, I don't know what's happening. But again, I don't care that I don't
yeah,
know what's happening.
yeah,
And I think maybe you know this better than I do, but I believe that Hawks not intentionally did that, but his theory when he was making this film was that audiences cared more about characters than they did about plot.
yeah,
And I
yeah.
think that he kind of put that to the test when he made this film. And he's right, at least
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah, that's where I said for this movie it worked. Like he was like, we'll do this for this. But then when he goes on to do other movies, you're like, well, wait a minute, now it got lost. But
Yeah.
some other Hawks movies, something that I really love that, was Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, when
Yeah.
at the end Marilyn Monroe is like, why wouldn't I just marry a guy with money so I can be happy? Like, this is what I want. He's fine with it too. And you're like, yeah, makes sense. Like, yeah,
Duh,
go do that. Yeah.
duh.
And yeah, but yeah, it's
I think it's
what
in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes. I always mix up Marilyn Monroe movies, but I think it's
that's
in
with
that
her and
one
Jane Russell.
where they're coming out of a movie theater and they went and saw Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Mm-hmm.
and and they're walking out and they're not really talking. You like hear like part of their conversation, and she says he just wanted to be loved. And that was like a
Yeah.
mind-boggling experience. I was like,
Yeah.
oh my god, I love the Creature from the Black Lagoon, I love King Kong. Why are
Yeah.
we so mean to these monsters? Like
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was like that was a huge moment for me in my
Yeah.
childhood.
Yeah.
Huge
Yeah.
moment.
Sometimes you're like, oh my God, like, yeah, something well, it's like I've said even on here. It's like I told you off mic, I did Barbarella with Jason on his show with the Vern. And I got more out of it this before when I watched it. I was like, oh, this is a horrible movie, but okay, Jane Fonda topless. Ooh, I like it. And then this time I was like, oh, I was really watching it and really like and
Yeah.
watching that whole on the Criterion channel. They have a whole documentary about that guy that wrote it. He wrote that and he helped write Easy Rider and all this and Dr. Strangelove. And it was really cool. And so I got more out of it. And that's the thing with this podcast where I'll be like maybe before I watch the movie to watch it. Okay, let me just watch, like I'll admit a couple of Christmases ago, I watched Barry Lyndon for the first time. And I was like, okay, now I watched it, got it out of my system. Now I've seen all the Kubrick films. And then, but now I know that if I dive into it, I'll get more out of it. Just like, dare I say,
Oh, there's a lot to get out of that film.
exactly. And dare I say, with Vertigo, I love Hitchcock. I watched Vertigo for the first time, being like, I don't get it. What's going on? But if I read some stuff and then go into it, it's just like 2001. I remember asking my friend, like, what is it? She goes, there's whole papers on what 2001 means. And, there's even an interview that he gave on the radio or on some audio tape that about it. But it's
I
that
will
thing
say,
of uh, appreciating them more, or just if you haven't been back to it for a while, then you are. But now, don't forget what you were going to say. What are your like favorite noirs? Um,
oh my God, that's so hard.
well,
I'm a
like,
big fan.
yeah,
I love Maltese Falcon. We've already mentioned
yeah,
that, but I
yeah,
love it. I love
mhm,
M. I
yeah,
you know, I'm weird with noirs. I think I'm very very classic, but again, I talked a little bit about how I have like the blindness
mhm,
for if a movie is a foreign movie.
right, yeah,
So like I could watch a movie and it could be entirely in French and in my head it was just in English the whole time and I have no idea. I also have a blindness for putting things into genres. So
mhm,
I really struggle with
yeah,
being like, "Oh, that for sure was a noir."
yeah, yeah,
Unless somebody says to me, "This is a noir," I'm like, "Was it? Was it not? I don't
yeah,
really
yeah.
know," you
Yeah,
know?
yeah, yeah. Because there's some westerns that are like that, or
Yeah,
like my favorites are like Kansas City Confidential. I really like that one's
that's
really
a great
cool.
answer.
The of course the Big Heat, which I love, the with
I don't think I've seen that.
Gloria Graham and Glenn Ford, done by
Oh,
Fritz
I'm aware of
Lang.
that. I have not seen that.
Oh, you need to see it. Oh, and Lee
Okay.
Marvin. Lee Marvin throws like a hot pot of coffee on her. And and then and then what's the other one? And then of course Double Indemnity is good.
Yeah.
That's
Oh,
one
Double Indemnity
where
is
my wife watched it with
outstanding.
me, and she was like, and I was like, so what do you think, honey? You think she really loves him? And my wife's like, no, she fucking using him. I'm like, yeah, exactly. But then speaking of foreign things, like then Diabolique, the French film I would say would be considered a film noir, like,
Yeah.
very
Yeah,
cool.
and that's why I get so it gets so complicated for me. Like whenever we're putting things into genres,
Yeah.
I struggle to do that. And probably a big part of me struggling to do that was watching Kurosawa films when I was younger, where it's
Mhm.
like this is every genre. You could argue
Yeah.
that any
Yeah.
Kurosawa film is pretty much any.
High and low could be a film noir. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, you know what is one of my favorite film noirs actually? It's a Kurosawa film that everybody
Oh,
doesn't
the
talk
the one
about.
with the gun,
Um,
Stray
yes,
Dog.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
a
that
good one.
movie.
Yeah.
That is a classic film noir.
Yeah. Yeah. The
That's
first time he
that is a
worked
great
with
answer.
Mifune, and yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, so cool.
yeah,
Yeah. I need to
so
watch
good.
more of his.
No,
But
I love him.
yeah, this went through what else did we need to touch on? Anything other than like I said, he got with Dorothy Malone for a while, and then her contract was up, and I don't know if she went and did other things or what. And what's sad that I brought this up before, and I kind of don't like bringing it up because we're talking about Humphrey Bogart's badass. But they're at the end when Lauren Bacall had to carry him to the dumbwaiter to put him upstairs to put him in the bed,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
he was so frail and so small, and with the cancer and whatnot. But yeah, all of his movies are good. He's always great. Um, yeah,
He
and
really is.
that's
There's just not a lot about this movie that you can say that's negative. I only ever had one negative experience with this movie, which I should maybe tell you. This is kind of a funny story, I guess. This is
mhm.
an embarrassing story about myself that I don't think I've ever shared before. So maybe it's
Yeah.
a good way for us to wrap up our love of the film.
Yeah.
I so I went and saw this movie in theaters. It was probably around 2010, 2011. And there's actually a movie theater here in Rochester where I'm from called the Dryden, and it is attached to the George Eastman house. So Eastman
Oh,
Kodak.
cool.
This
Yeah.
is Tarantino stores his movies in our vaults.
Cool.
It
Yeah.
is literally one of the most incredible theaters that has ever existed. It's
Mm.
beautiful, it's stunning. We still have the ability to stream nitrate or to project
Oh,
nitrate
wow.
films at our theater. We have one of the only setups to be able to continue screening nitrate. And so there's nitrate film festivals every year, and sometimes they show random stuff on nitrate, and it's a really amazing theater. But I went to go see The Big Sleep there,
Mhm.
and it had been years and years and years since I had seen it, and I remembered almost nothing of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went in and I was there. I think I was on a date with my first ex-husband. It was probably one of our first dates, actually. So it was probably earlier than this.
Yeah.
And about halfway through the movie, I was trying to remember what scene it was during. I feel like it's when Brady is admitting to that he took the pictures from the
Oh, right.
chauffeur,
Yeah. Yeah.
admitting that he was doing the blackmail, but he says, I'm not the murderer. And we get this like crazy, then there's like a crazy chase scene.
Yeah.
During that scene, all of a sudden I started feeling really lightheaded and really horrible. And I was like,
Mhm.
oh no, I got to get up and get out of here.
Yeah.
So I lean over to my boyfriend at the time and I'm like, I'm just going to go to the restroom. And I get up to go to the restroom and I make it out of the theater. And I am walking to the restroom. It's maybe, I don't know, it's a short hallway over to the restroom from the theater.
Mhm.
And I take a couple of steps and I pass out and I
Oh.
puke all over myself.
Oh.
All over myself.
Oh,
And I
man.
wake back up because I went out. Like it
Yeah.
was like one of those. And I was like, this is the most embarrassing thing. I wake up on the floor in a pile of my own puke. I'm like, this is literally the most embarrassing thing. This is a movie theater that I go to all of the time. All of the employees
Yeah.
in this movie theater know who I am, and they know that I come here 4 times a week. And now I'm the girl who puked all over myself.
Yeah.
And so one of the employees must have seen that I had walked out and was not looking well. And they went and got my husband. And um, he comes out and he's like, hey, are you okay? And I'm like laying on the floor. And it was just one of those weird freak medical incidents. Like nothing. I went to like the
Yeah.
doctors. They were like, some people just randomly pass out every so often. You
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
just didn't eat enough sugar,
Yeah.
whatever.
That's fun.
But I will never forget. I was so upset. We had to go home, obviously, after that. We couldn't stay at the theater, which
Mhm.
meant that we didn't see the entire climax of the film and I couldn't remember
Oh.
anything that had happened.
Yeah.
And the whole time, this was before you could get anything on streaming. Again, I think it was probably in the earlier 2000s than what I originally recited.
Yeah.
You couldn't get anything on streaming. You couldn't get anything anywhere. And I was like, but I need to see the end of this
Yeah.
movie. Like,
Yeah.
we need to go get this movie. So we actually went to a video store the next day so that I could rent it. They didn't have it,
Oh.
unsurprisingly.
Yeah.
So we had to go to like a used,
Yeah.
media
Go get it like
store
DVD
and
or
get a
something. Yeah.
copy of it so that I could finish watching this movie. And to this day, that is one of the most embarrassing things that has ever happened to me. And so I will never forget The Big Sleep because of that.
There was something that happened to me. It wasn't in public, but it was at home, but I had a pass out incident. It was pretty funny. I find it funny. My wife was scared.
It's
But
terrifying.
so I get up, like I don't know when I ate. I think it was just a fluke thing, but maybe I didn't have enough sugar, I didn't have enough food.
Yep.
So I sleep during the day and I get up to go to the restroom. And as I'm peeing, we have like our tub at our apartment, the tub and the toilet. So in the one little room, and then you go to sink. So I'm in there, I'm peeing in the toilet, and I'm feeling like, oh shit, I feel lightheaded. I go, as soon as this stream is done, I need to sit down right here.
Sit down.
I'm going to sit down on the tub. That's what I'm thinking. Immediately, I'm out. I hit my head on the tub.
Oh,
I'm like curled over. My wife comes in. She goes, what? She grabs my leg. My brother-in-law was living with us at the time. He was in the living room. She grabs my ankle, starts dragging me down the hallway. I come out of it. I'm like, what are you doing? She goes, you passed out. I go, no, I didn't. She goes, your dick's out. I go, oh shit. She pulled. So I'm like, oh my God. So she tells the brother-in-law, like, call 911. He calls somebody, ambulance comes. They're like, when was the last time you ate? You need to eat more. I'm like, okay. So Yeah, but luckily it wasn't in front of a bunch of people.
I
But
feel like everybody has one random pass out story where it had, but what are the odds that it happens in the middle? I'm
yeah,
seated in a
yeah,
movie theater.
yeah,
I
yeah.
like,
And
well,
then
how
just
did I?
like,
Oh, and the movie theater was packed too. So
oh,
like I very awkwardly got up from the middle of an aisle,
yeah,
had to like excuse myself amongst all of the people
yeah.
in
And
order to
not
get out
feeling
and
good.
pass out
Like
and
I
puke
need to
all over
get out
myself.
quick. Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
It was
crazy.
so embarrassing.
The
The movie's well worth it though.
yeah, it is. Well, and that's the thing. Like there's not a lot of these classics on the Quentin list, but I do like these. And what I do like also with Quentin on the Patreon, on his Patreon, he's diving into more of those older movies now. Like he even said, I've seen I've seen Rolling Thunder several times. So now I would rather watch something kind of like my dad always says, like, why are you going to watch something you've already seen? I go, because it's really cool. He goes, watch something new. I'm like, okay, which I've been doing, I said, which will come up here soon on a movie, but reviews, Bozzy Crowther said of the film, it leaves the viewer confused and dissatisfied. And he points out that Bacall is a dangerous looking female, which I agree. All these women, you're like, oh, who meaning like, yeah, it's like femme fatales or like, that woman's poison, I tell you. Yeah, they'll get you in trouble. Like,
Martha Vickers, I every time that I see Martha Vickers, I forget how stunningly gorgeous is. I
yeah.
see her and I go,
Mhm.
that's the most beautiful woman in the whole world. In the
Yeah,
whole world.
somebody, I forget who it was, but somebody said that she almost stole the show from Lauren Bacall.
Oh,
Like she
absolutely.
was,
Yeah, I think she did.
and yeah, and then talking about like sexiness, like to have and have not, like her and him to get, like her being like, it's better when better put your lips together and blow, and then the thing of like, it's better when you help, and you're like, oh my god, you were gorgeous, like, oh,
Yeah.
that, but so he said, dangerous female who still hasn't learned to act. And he notes, quote, the big sleep is one of those pictures in which so many cryptic things occur amid so much involved and devious plotting that the mind becomes utterly confused. And to make it more aggravating, the brilliant detective in the case is continuously making shrewd deductions, which he stubbornly keeps to himself. What with what with two interlocking mysteries and a great many characters involved, the complex of blackmail and murder soon becomes a web of utter bafflement. Unfortunately, the cunning scriptwriters have done little to clear it at the end. No, that's what's great, is it's not laid out for you. I love when a movie will say
I like
something,
ambiguity.
yeah, where that, or just where they're not laying everything out. Like, here's the thing. Like, I
Yeah.
was thinking about this with the new Mission Impossible. What I love on Mission Impossible 3 is when he's like, we got to steal this thing. And they're like, okay. And then all of a sudden you just see him, he's on the radio, like, I'm above you. Like he jumps out in the parachute, he's coming down. And
Yeah.
and then gets hit by a truck and all that. But it's that kind of stuff where I love when they're like, here's the plan, and then you don't see the plan, and then they're in the middle of the plan or something goes haywire where it's not that. Like one of my favorite movies, speaking of Mission Impossible, is Way of the Gun. How in Way of the Gun, he was like, I saw an episode of Cops, the director, McQuarrie, was like, and in the episode of Cops, they're chasing these guys, and the car slows way down, and the doors open, and the guys run out. And the cops jump out of the car to go chase them, and they just jump back in the car and take off. And that's what they did on Way of the Gun. And you're like, oh, it's genius. But those things, or like I said before, I think last week, Spartan, with the movie Spartan, where he's like, here's a plan, we're gonna go save the president's daughter or whatever. And then she escapes herself. And you're like, oh, that's cool. I like it. Um, but yeah, it's him knowing everything. Like I love that he just won't tell them. He's just like, he's like, of course I got to keep it to myself. I'm not going to do, I'm getting paid $25 a day. I'm not going to give that away. So in this movie, did you see anything that you think Tarantino might have liked or used in a film? I mean, I could see the
I think
dialogue, of
he liked
course. Yeah.
the idea of having that snappy dialogue.
Yeah.
That is
And the
a
cool
big
character. Yeah.
the razor sharp dialogue, that is totally Tarantino. And again, almost the framing of the shots. And I
Mhm.
think that the interactions of the romantically interested couple.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time I feel like, and you probably know this better than I do, but a lot of the time I feel like Tarantino, when he has a couple, he doesn't necessarily make them entirely lovey-dovey.
Mhm.
And we definitely don't, Bacall and Bogart are not entirely. Most of the movie, they
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
hate each
yeah. They're
other.
kind of, yeah.
And I think
He's kind of
Tarantino
like,
pulls from
I'm
that.
starting to maybe like you, but yeah, he's
Yeah.
still. But that's the other thing. I think something that we should say a little bit with Elisha Cook shows up and says, "Hey, for $200, we can tell you this information. Agnes has the
Mm,
information. We can tell you who killed or
yep.
where he's at and where she's at, the wife." And so he's like, "Okay." And you can tell just because Elisha Cook, poor Elisha Cook, he's always been cast as that guy
Yeah.
and in The Killing and whatever. And so he like goes to so he shows up early to see what's going on and he finds them, he finds the bad guy in there talking to Elisha Cook and gives him poison. And you feel like, how come he's not running in there like to help him? But you also know that he's trying to solve it. And also he doesn't know. He thinks that he got given water, like it looked like he got water.
Yeah.
And then the guy runs out and he goes to chase him, and Elisha Cook falls over and breaks the glass. And he's like, oh shit. And then later, when he's like, this guy, Harold, was a good guy and he died for no reason because of you. And then when the girl's like, I'm really upset, he's like, no, you're not. You don't give a shit about him. Like you were using him to be your money person, but that was cool where he kind of was like,
Yeah.
I thought the guy was weird, but I liked him. He says something like that. And you're like, yeah.
Again, it's that moral ambiguity.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's just, I don't know. He's so cool. I like this movie. I know it may be convoluted, but I would rather watch this over. I haven't watched the new Dune, the second one, but that's how I felt watching Dune. It was like, there's so many names. Like, how do I know it's a beautiful movie, but so many names.
I love
Um,
this movie. I love this movie more and more every time that I watch it, and I
me,
still don't understand the ending of it.
me too. I think maybe I
And
did,
I
but
don't care.
maybe I didn't. But that's my thing. Today I was like, oh, maybe this is above Maltese Falcon. Like this has more to it. Maltese Falcon's cool and it's like stuff dreams are made of, blah, blah, blah. It's nothing, but it's great. But this movie, you're just like, oh, it's got the cool shit of him just like watching a house and like, disguising himself and doing all that stuff. Like it's great. So speaking of how
Yeah.
much we like this, our rating system here is 1 to 5, just like Letterbox. Do you have a Letterbox? I should follow you on
I
Letterbox.
do. I'm addicted to Letterbox.
I love it. I
Actually, when you
had to.
mentioned the big heat, I
Mhm.
grabbed my cell phone and
Okay.
then put it on my watch list
Yeah,
on
yeah.
Letterbox. I'm so addicted.
And that's my thing. I've now been in the habit of after I watch a movie, I type it, I'm like, okay, and I rate it, so I know. But I rate this movie, might be too low, 4 out of 5. I almost wanted to go 5. What do you got?
5. This is the
Yeah,
easy
all right,
5
all
for
right.
me.
You're
This
probably
is the
right.
easy
Yep,
5.
yep,
This is one of the best movies of all time, I
yeah,
feel like.
yeah, yeah,
And again, I could criticize it. I could pick it apart. I could. I
yeah,
think
yeah,
that we could, if we were to sit down and dissect any given scene,
yeah,
we could probably find flaws with it.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I don't care at all. I don't care.
yeah.
The pacing is perfect, despite the fact that I get a little bit lost in the characters.
Mhm.
Almost everybody's a bad guy, so I just lump them into the bad guy
Yeah,
trope,
yeah.
and it functions
Well,
well.
and
And I love it.
I think in a way, I always get this with this movie because it has that Chinatown feel because
Yeah.
of her and her and her sister, and then
Yeah, yeah.
mother, sister. Um, so part of me was always like, oh, it's Vivian did everything, when I start watching this. Oh, it's
Oh,
Vivian.
totally.
And then you go, oh, wait, no, it's not Vivian. And then more characters. And that's the thing. You don't have to be like, okay, here's Joe Brody. Let's go follow him. You just all of a sudden Joe Brody shows up and he's like, who the fuck are you? Well, who are you? Okay, well, call the police. All right, and calling him on his bluff. It's good stuff. So yeah, I'll change that. I'll give it 5. Would you
It's
buy
so
this
good.
movie, rent it, or find it for free?
Buy it. I already own it,
I
and I
I
would still buy it again.
I own it too, and I'm thinking that I need to buy it because I think either the DVD, maybe the Blu-ray too, has both versions, so you can get the
Yeah.
45 version or the 46 version that has the
So
added stuff.
I have the
So,
DVD and I have never looked into I actually just
okay.
recently bought the DVD
Mhm.
and I have not looked at the special features on it yet. So I don't know what is on there. But I would like to own this on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
I would like
yeah,
to.
it's funny. I just got. I'll tell you my story because it was kind of funny.
Yeah.
So my buddy Eric says, hey, you need to get a region free player, and
Mhm.
I'm like, okay. And then he goes, you can get a 4K region free player combo. I'm like, all right. So then I go, it's too expensive. I'll just get the 4K player. And then he's like, I'm getting rid of movies. Like I can send you some region two. So then I'm like, okay, now I need to get one because he's sending me movies. So I go, okay. So I go and I buy a 4K Sony that says um it says 4K that I think, but what I didn't see was 4K upscaling. So I was like,
Oh
okay.
no.
So I get it. I put in the Blu-ray and I'm like, the region two, and I'm like, okay, it works. I go to put in the Great Escape from England to play no, I played the 4K. I put the Blu-ray and it won't play. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. First, got the Blu-ray player without the 4K. And then I was like, this doesn't have 4K. It's the upscaling. So all it does,
Yeah.
it won't play 4Ks. It only plays the region twos and region ones. So then I'm like, fuck. So I had to send it back. My wife's like, well, send it back. We'll get another one. So so I had my original 4K player and I'm like, well, I'll send that one back and I'll get another one. So I get this other one and I'm trying to, they say you can push blue and it'll do region B. And I'm like, it's not working. And I
Not
go,
working.
motherfucker. And I keep looking it up. And some people are like, there's a video of a guy being like, look, I push blue, it works. I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden, I I'm like, I don't know why this isn't working. I read the back of it, and then I read the back of my original one. They're both X700s. And I'm like, motherfucker, I got the exact same one after sending the region two back. So I'm like, oh my God. So then I sent it back and then I ordered just a regular Blu-ray region, region free. And the wife's like, how many of these do you need to fucking own? And I'm like, no, it's this one is the last one. And I'll just play the 4Ks
How
over
many
and the
how
regular
many
ones over here.
Blu-ray players do you need to order in order
Yeah.
to be able to watch a movie?
And luckily it's through Amazon. So we can just, send it in and
That's
get back.
great.
But yeah, it was funny where, and then her thing is like you said, like she goes, now don't buy anything on 4K that you already own. Like don't, just get something that you don't. I go, okay. So yeah. But yeah, that was my funny story.
I love
But
that.
it was funny where I wrote my friend, I'm like, how come this isn't working? Do you have a problem with your disc of, the
Yeah.
Great Escape?
Of
And
whatever, yeah.
he's like, are you sure that it's a 4K player? And I'm like, oh shit, no, it's not. So, but now I'm all good. But anyway, Phil's film favorite of the week is The Big Trail, 1930. I had heard about this movie. The plot: Brett Coleman, that's John Wayne, leads hundreds of settlers in covered wagons from the Mississippi River to their destiny out west. This is another one. I give 4 stars, but I might go higher. I might go 4.5. It was really good. It's a 2-hour movie. Raoul Walsh did it. And it, I think I expected it to seem older, but it didn't. It like looked good. And the way that they filmed it was kind of widescreen for back then. Like it's still 14:9, whatever, but it's a
Yeah.
little wider. And it was really cool. It had like they had the best wagon circle ever. Like, usually they do we circle the wagons and they circle it and you're like, there's spaces in there. This was, they were like doubled and everything. And I was like, oh my God, and everything was done practically. Like they were doing the circling the
Yeah,
wagons.
you could
They were
that
doing all
makes such a
this.
big difference.
Yeah.
So I've seen that one, but it's been so long that I remember very, very little of it. So with a great rating like a 4 and possibly higher,
Yeah.
I am gonna have to go back and revisit it.
It's so good. What did you watch anything recently so I can write it down, put it in the show notes?
Yeah, let me see. I just now I feel like I need to go check my letterbox.
Something
I
else that was cool. You did like a movie haul.
Yeah.
And in the beginning you were talking about the guy with the big dick, whatever.
Yep. Yeah.
No,
That was
you
great.
were
I
picking on him,
loved talking about
which
that.
yeah, it's so funny. It's guys that don't have anything going for them who are like, here's my thing. And you're
Mhm.
like, am I supposed to just fucking soak my
Drop
panties,
to my
jump
knees.
on
Yeah.
you,
What am I
and be
supposed to
like,
do?
oh my
Yeah.
God, yeah.
So
Um,
stupid.
but you were talking about on one of those, maybe it's the third one back, whatever. It was you were Marx Brothers. And I was like,
Yeah, I
oh,
love
and
Marx
that's the
Brothers.
thing where I have my Marx Brothers set of like all 4 movies.
Yep.
And I go, I need to watch those. Like, I think my wife
They're
would
so
enjoy
good.
those, and they're so
They're
quick.
so good.
Something that we
They're
did
so
last.
quick. Every single joke, you
Yeah.
blink and
Yeah.
you miss every single joke.
Yeah.
Every single joke in
Yeah.
Marx Brothers movies.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about them so much.
Yeah.
So I recently took a couple of flights. I was in Maryland recently, so I was watching airplane movies. So I finally watched Thanksgiving. It is not
is
the
it
time
good?
of year at all to watch that movie. I'm not a big Eli
Yeah.
Roth fan.
Yeah.
The kills
Yeah.
were okay, but it's not my
Yeah.
thing. And then I watched Juror Number 2, directed by Clint Eastwood.
That was good.
And
Yeah.
it was shockingly good. It was a little ham-fisted, but it was really good.
Yeah. You're
And
kind
then
of like, I wonder where this is going. Yeah.
yeah, and like people would be like, "Well, I'm a doctor, so I know that this is how bones break." And I was like, "All right, you didn't need to do that, but
Yeah.
whatever." And then the most recent movie that I saw in theaters, that I really, really loved was a movie called Vulcan Isadora, which
Oh,
came out in 2024, but I believe it is doing a short run around theaters. Without
Interesting.
giving anything away about it, it is a buddy film where 2 guys go on a journey in the woods together. And I would
Wow.
implore people to not learn anything about it. It is
That's
an odd comedy. It is sad. It is heartfelt. I really enjoyed it. But go in knowing nothing is what I would say about that movie.
there was one that I mentioned that one of my hosts, like a couple episodes back, said that we should. His friend made a horror movie, and and it's called Left One Alive. And
Okay.
the movie starts with a car stopping and this girl stumbling out of the woods all bloody with a backpack. And when the cops open the backpack, it's got a demon's head in it, some kind of monstrous head that was in the and now it's her being like, PTSD and
Yeah.
dealing with all of that. And it's like, it's really cool. And then her like wanting to go back, but then being like, this is a new species and there's more out there. And this is federal land that nobody can go on. And she's like, well, fuck you. I'm going to go back. So it's really kind of cool. It's like I found it on Hoopla. So, if you have a
Oh, that's
library
awesome.
card, you can rent it
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
And it was made in 2024, I think, and it was fun. He got me with that premise of like, I was like,
Yeah,
yeah,
that sounds
it's
great.
like I've said before, like if Friday the 13th ended, but you started at the end with her on the boat
Yeah.
or in the hospital bed being like, what's going on? So yeah. Where else are we at? Yeah, you told me that. If you're ready to tell people what's coming up on my show, and then I'll let you do your stuff. But here we go.
Let's go.
See, you got me all discombobulated. I was supposed to start with come back on June 6th when I will be by myself and we will see. And then you play the music. And I'm going to be by myself and I'm going to do The Game of Death from 1978. Game of Death, not The Game of Death. The plot is a martial arts movie star must fake his death to bring down the syndicate that is extorting him and other celebrities, including his pop singer girlfriend, for protection money. So we don't have a trailer, but I remember I saw this back in the day, and then recently, like it was on Pluto, like the chase scene with the motorcycles, like that stuff was cool. And I know that he had a whole like it's almost like The Raid, like he had to go up and up levels.
Yeah.
Like originally came up with that idea. But yeah, so I'll be doing that, and it's oh, see, I didn't check where it's streaming. Anyway, Game of Death, you can find it. I think it's on Pluto and Tubi, or you could buy there's a discount, a Blu-ray that has like a couple of like
A ton of martial arts movies.
it's documentaries,
cool.
and then 4 of his films. Like Criterion did, his movie Way of the Dragon, and
Yeah.
all those. which I have Enter the Dragon on. I bought that on Apple for like $5, and it's 4K. And what's cool with that, as you know, it's got Jackie Chan and uh,
Bruce Lee.
well, no, why can't I think of his
Or
name?
no,
No, the fuck.
I
My
zoned
friend's
out
yelling
and
at
was
me
still
right
thinking
now.
about Game of Death.
Yeah, my friend's yelling at me now. The bigger guy, starts with an S. And now all I'm thinking of is Sonny Chiba, and it's not Sonny Chiba. Oh, it's driving me nuts. You know who it is.
One of those nights.
Yeah, one of those guys with the thing. Wrong one. Hang on. Be with you in a second. Sammo Hung, that guy. Which Eastern Condors, if you haven't seen Eastern Condors, it's really good.
I have not. I'm going to add that to the letterbox list as well.
It's like this team during Vietnam. They get this. It's kind of like Dirty Dozen. They get these guys together to go with the military. Something happens to the military guys, so now it's this, rabble team of guys going to. It's really cool.
Cool.
But where can people find you?
Yes, you guys can always find me on Once Over with Kaylee on YouTube. The same thing on Patreon. Kaylee is spelled Cayley. I got a ton of exciting stuff coming up, but I've been a little bit behind, so we've been doing lots of haul videos and stuff like that. When it
Those
comes
are
to movie
cool.
reviews, which is generally what I do, I am reviewing Porky's 4, Porky's Pimp and Pee-wee, coming up soon with the guys from
wow.
Porn Stash Podcast, a movie I did not even know existed.
And
I have
me neither. And is Pee Wee
yeah.
in it? Is it the original guy that played Pee Wee in it?
No, there's not a
Oh.
single original cast member.
That's funny.
It's worse than Porky's 2 is how I would describe it.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
I don't know. It has a special place in my heart.
There's those things like Meatballs 4 with Corey Feldman.
Yes.
I remember
exactly.
my buddy was like, my cousin was like, you need to see Meatballs 4. I just went. So we rented it. We go to watch it. And it's that thing of they're getting ready to race on the jet skis.
On the
all of a sudden,
skis,
Corey
yeah.
Feldman's like, wait, I lost my contact. And then they go, you don't wear contacts. And he's like, oh yeah, okay, let's go. And you're like, and it's just funny. And you're,
It's so stupid. So I
But,
have that coming up.
yeah.
I have 10 Cloverfield Lane coming up with Husey from Husey Entertainment.
Cool.
And I also have Attack of the 50-Foot Woman, talk about classic movies, which I will be talking about with the guys from oh my God. Remember when it was late and we forgot all of the words? Puppet Masters Castle Freaks.
Oh, okay.
Puppet Masters Castle Freaks podcast, which is another amazing, it's a Charles Band podcast. Truly incredible stuff that they do over there. So we actually talked about Attack of the 50-Foot Cam Girl on their channel. So they're going to join me to talk about Attack of the 50-Foot Woman.
Where it all came from. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I think there's one during the reality show thing. Wasn't there like Attack of the 50 with cheerleader or something like that?
There's so many.
Yeah.
There's literally Attack of the 50-Foot, anything that is a derogatory name that you could call a woman.
Yeah, very true.
It's great.
Well,
it's really wonderful.
It's like the Amityville, like now they have Amityville backpack, Amityville bong, like whatever.
Yep.
Well, anyway, thank you, Kaylee, for joining me. Thank you for joining us. We hope you had fun and maybe learned something about a movie that may have a part in making Tarantino. Goodbye. And
bye. Thank you.
There we go. See, I should keep my mouth shut and they'll say goodbye.